you understand the power of your own data, and then your differentiator, that constant adaptability, is the machine learning algorithm that's going to best work for you. And it's not one. It might be 10. It might be 100. If you're a manufacturer, there's a ton of algorithms and AI that you would initially start with, say, vision AI, because you want to look at sorting faster. You want to look at quality checks. But it's all at a faster rate. That improves efficiencies. That's part of this world of AI and the algorithm behind machine learning. That's going to be yours. That's going to be your differentiator. Taking your data, training that algorithm, and that's your differentiator in the market. You could be an accountant. You could be selling stuff. You could be a retailer. You could be you name it. I can come up with 50 examples of this. The problem is no one's doing it. They're sitting on this trough.
Why though? I mean, that's the next
It's
question.
the unknown. So you
But
only respond
I
to
don't
change.
buy that as an excuse though. I mean,
So the unknown is quite broad, right? So
Yeah.
unknown is, I know I've got big data. Yeah, I know I have data. The unknown is, what the fuck do I do with it? How do I do it? What do I need to put in place? And most people go down a journey, and I've seen so many guys, they're on a 2-year journey, either dipping your toes in with small consultancies solving little problems, or you're building big Hadoop stacks that are costing you hundreds of millions of rands over 2-3 years that are not performing. Those are your two and that's because people don't know how. So they're making all the mistakes by themselves. And there's so much knowledge and data and communities out there. But again, did people know that? You know, the amount of open source algorithms is in excess of 250,000 algorithms. A year and a half ago, everyone was raving about the fact that they had gone over 7,000 open source algorithms. And in those algorithms are credit checking, all the basics. You take that and you can make it your own. But people just don't know.
it's like that sounds to me like the burgeonings of cryptocurrency, where there was like Bitcoin in 2008, and then there's literally thousands now. You know what I mean? All pretty useless, but still.
Because no one understands what's behind it, right?
Absolutely.
They're all like, yeah, it's another currency I can invest in. Whoa, did you say invest in currency? Did you really say that? But it's an unknown.
Yeah, rather invest in gold and speculate in currency.
Yeah.
But I love that, because we're actually introducing an AI component to what we do. Yeah. So
you have to. If you're in performance and lead gen, you're one of the first areas that should be benefiting from it.
Yeah, exactly. And
acquisition revenue.
And it's, I mean, as in like next week.
Nice.
So we're going to basically be able to convert anywhere. So in other words, if instead of having one conversion page, we can actually convert on any number of them in any media sources. It's pretty interesting.
So when you say like the format of anywhere, as in mobile, desktop, blah, or you say
mobile,
on
desktop,
platform and
content.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And so where's the AI going to play its role?
In integrating itself in all those spaces.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
so if we're doing, because we're story first, so landing why,
Yeah.
and then as a result of doing that awareness and education piece, then actually being able to generate the lead on IT Web, on Tech Central,
I see what you mean.
Anywhere
Nice.
basically.
Yeah. Nice.
So it's pretty interesting.
Cool.
Yeah, it's going to change the game.
Just that one algorithm is where you're going to make all your money. You get that really refined to get a better success rate and cost per acquisition. That's your differentiator.
And it changes the business.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. How's your AI, guys?
Hi, guys.
There's a whole team of people behind this camera, by the way. Everyone's like, shit, did he say I need to become a machine learning expert?
Yeah, that's bonus dependent.
It's really easy. Udemy.
What does it take to be successful? Like, what is the perspective shift in your view that an entrepreneur needs to make it in a developed economy like New York?
Well, I have to thank Elon Musk. He makes it easier for us South Africans to succeed in America, and he's given us all South African entrepreneurs a good reputation.
Is that a true thing?
It is a true thing. In fact, New Yorkers are very open to South Africans. South Africans are sometimes welcome, sometimes not. But certainly in America, we are. So that's really been helpful. But I think it's New Yorkers in general are very receptive and want to help you out to make connect you with people and help make things happen for you.
Yeah.
I think as a South African that's gone and lived in London and in the US and then back to South Africa and then back to the US, with each move that you make, you have to be resourceful because you're almost starting from scratch each time. So really just being super persistent, tenacious, like White Fang. We all read that book, White Fang, at school.
Yeah.
That was one tenacious wolf. That's what you're going to be like.
White Fang, basically.
Be like White Fang. And, it's just like continual, relentless hustling, selling the dream, believing the dream, knowing, kind of trusting your instincts to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But it's really hard, and while it might seem like we made a lot of progress, when you're in the moment and you're there, it feels like you haven't really. So there's always a kind of a realization of where are you? Are you in like a peak or a trough or a valley or?
There's always the next level, right?
There's always the next level, and you just got to keep on climbing, no matter what.
But in talking about that, I mean, there is something that is, it's a worldwide phenomenon about the youth. When I mean the youth, the millennial youth, let's say the 20 to 30-year-olds, and they're leaning towards socialism. Socialism is something that obviously, because I'm a capitalist. I mean, and I don't come from money. It's not like I'm protecting money that I came from, that I was, that I got in a will or something. It's like, I love the concept of capitalism. It's free market, thrive or die. I mean, like the weak must die in business, and somebody better will come along and provide you a better quality service, and you progress. I mean, capitalism has taken more people out of poverty than any other form of social construct. And I mean, it's not even a construct. It's just, as soon as government gets involved, they screw it up. But there is this idealistic understanding of socialism that these youngsters have, and part of that is entitlement, and I think part of it's laziness. So where do you? And it's a worldwide thing. But now I want to ask you something. How much of this is lecturers?
But most people aren't happy. Yeah. They're not, dude.
Absolutely.
And it's and to your point, it's like, well, no, when I make my first million, I'll be happy. Yeah. It's like if you grew up broke and you make money, you buy the dumbest shit.
Oh yeah.
The dumbest shit imaginable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
A bedazzled spinner.
It's just fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, no, it's...
Like, what are you doing? But, you know what I'm saying? Like,
but I mean, you just need to look at hip-hop videos, right? Like, I mean, new money is a disease. It is. And I don't blame...
That's why you got to make new money old. You know what I mean?
Okay, not that old, but I still want to buy some dumb shit, but the biggest thing is, like, you look at hip hop culture and it tells you that, okay, like, I mean, I was just listening to it, which is so sad. But he was like, it's Drake successful, right? So he says, I just want to be successful. And he says, I want the money and the cars and the clothes and the hoes, I suppose. Right. And it's like, yeah, all of us are kind of, my rapping sucks, but like, it's all these things that we taught, especially when you don't come from privilege or you don't come from money. It's kind of like, these are the things that are going to fulfill me. And then you look at all these hip hop artists and you're like, does Lil Wayne look happy to you? Lil Wayne barely looks like he showers, let alone happy, Ooh, I'm just, everybody catching bullet holes. I'm on a roll today.
When you cast your mind back, like, were you like, why was pizza your thing? Was it because Dad was, had this rad brand, Roman's Pizza? Like, were you on the fence about it? Did you ever doubt, like, taking it on at all? Like, that initial step, walk us through that.
So, I've always been fairly entrepreneurial from a young age. My father's always been in restaurants and or food, so I grew up in the restaurant business. from helping out in the restaurants, washing dishes, to working as a waiter, to working as a manager in high school when my father first started with the Romans Pizza brand. But I decided there's no way I want to do this. I want to go into finance. So I studied, got a piece of paper, and joined a German bank in Rosebank as a currency trader, forex trader.
German bank.
Commerzbank, yeah.
Okay.
Based in Johannesburg in Rosebank as a currency trader, where I traded forex, which was very exciting. It really was.
Back, what year was this?
This was 2001.
Okay.
And everything was going great. I had my life planned out. I'm going to join this international bank for a year and get transferred to Europe with New York, party with the traders, make $10 million bonuses, and then 9/11 happened.
Ugh.
So all the banks started retrenching, yada, yada, yada. My father, at the same time, we were previously named Little Caesars. And
Oh, was that you?
that was us.
No way, dude. I remember that. That's a blast from the past.
Yeah, Caesar's Palace had opened the casino, and they decided to sue us for infringement of IP, combined with Little Caesars America at that time. And my father said, we got to rebrand. We spoke to the best guys in the industry, and they said 5 years, you could win. If you lose, the Americans' legal fees will bankrupt you. So at the same time, he said he was thinking of selling the business after the rebranding. And what was I thinking of doing with my life? At which point I said, I'll come join you. I'm out of banking. I understand this business. I've grown up in it, and let's see where we can go.
I was just about to ask you, like, a lot of this must be on your own,
Yeah.
which is interesting, right? So
Yeah.
you don't use groupthink, or you don't use groups
Yeah.
to, I mean, which I
But
find,
I have worked in
I know
groups
you do,
before.
but on the
Yeah.
whole,
Yeah.
it's mainly you.
Yeah.
Like, what place do you go to creatively? Like, is there a place that you, like, do you go to a quiet room? Where do you get your, like, inspiration from?
Well, you know, there's two kinds of things. The one is content, and the other is vehicle, or metaphor, or like just that weird stuff that you don't know, and you don't know how that two are going to link. So I do that thing of absorb. Sometimes I have 2 radio stations on, believe it or not. I don't know how I do that, but I actually do. I sometimes have one in my ear and one that's on, and I think, that's going in an interesting direction, and then I'll listen to that one. And I might have the TV on, and I'm surfing the net, and I've got newspapers, and I'm like, somebody phones me. I mean, so it's like my head is like weird. It's like balls of cotton wool, but I'm trying to absorb this stuff, absorb, and then it's like I actually write down. If I had my book, my way of working, and this is where, if I talk to cartooning students, I've got these. I just have a cheap book, because you don't want to have something that makes you feel self-conscious. So it's really cheap. I just whack a whole bunch of A4 photostat pages together. That's my books. I've got about 70 of them, like that thick. So they are going back to 94. And what I do is I write down the subjects that interest me. Really, it's as programmatic as that. I write down the subjects, and I write down my attitude towards those subjects. I actually write that down, because the process of writing it down helps me to think. And then I suddenly think, hey, wait a minute, that one connects with that one. I didn't realize that. And I start making these little arrows in a different color. And then I start thinking, wait, if that's something that's very wordy, am I going to say it through a comic strip, because it needs discursive stuff? If it somehow feels like it could be communicated in a big graphic, it's maybe a 1-panel thing, or 2 panels, like something, and then a surprise. But all of it is about surprise. So how do you tell the story, and all jokes are about surprise. All cartoons are about surprise. Not all cartoons are funny, but they all have the twist. So, and all adverts tend to be, good adverts tend to be like that as well. I'm sure you know. But you get something, and then it's the twist that does it. You expect it to end one way, and it's the twist. So how to get to that twist in a way that you haven't telegraphed the joke, you haven't telegraphed the thing, you really are genuinely surprised. That's where the art comes in. That's where I try and work. So I'm not going to telegraph it, even if it's in 1 panel. I'm still going to somehow surprise you.
What advice would I give to a startup around this is what do you know something about? Okay. And what do people know a lot of? All right. And then how do you establish a tension between solving that one problem and meeting the client where they're at? And that's a difficult thing to do because you constantly vie between the two, right? Many startups or entrepreneurs listening will know that it's really tough to say no to work, especially at the beginning part of your genesis as a business. But you'll know just how important it is to learn to say no to work and even work that sounds easy and really profitable. The challenge of sticking to the things that you know best and do well is one worth engaging, I think. Unless, of course, you want to be all things to all people all the time, in which case just do that very well. But that's not my experience. That hasn't been something I was ever very good at.
Number one is did all the calculations and said to myself, great, we can close for 6 weeks. But what I didn't calculate was the time it would take in Jozi to get back up and running from stopping all the work, basically. Okay, so that was a miscalculation. So to ramp the business back up to where it was. The second miscalculation was what it would actually take to get a new business off the ground. And we were chatting about this earlier. So you walk into things and go, cool, I've been successful in 2 other businesses. I'm going into my new venture. People are going to react well to this. Do you swear on this show? People don't give a shit, okay, who you are, what you've done before. The new venture has to prove itself and earn the trust of its clients. And I forgot, I had one of my mentors come through that had just met me. I went through the accelerator, thanks to you as well. And one of the mentors, yes. Thank you for that, Matt. So pat yourself on the back there.
And I mean, that didn't even bug me throughout my triathlon career. And so I was very, very lucky that I discovered something I was extremely good at. And so here's the thing with the extraordinary. I was, quite a few years ago, an extraordinary age group endurance athlete. So in Ironman South Africa, first amateur athlete across the line, beating professional athletes, 16th overall, half Ironman, same sort of thing. And people often, like, wow, that's quite remarkable. And I want to say, but not really, because I didn't see it that way, because I was never the best cyclist, I was never the best swimmer, and I was never the best runner. And I think that's the thing about life, is that you limit yourself so much by thinking that this is the thing you have to be the best at or really, really good at. But take those 3, and then the 4th discipline of Ironman, and I think this is what's led me to this point now as a cancer survivor, is that there's a 4th discipline in Ironman, and that is the mental stuff.
Eventually you have to consider the alternatives, and that's kind of what you were forced to do.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I think you didn't have the choice.
Yeah.
Maybe you did. Did you feel like you had the choice? Do you feel like, was that choice like, you will do this thing now, or like what was the choice there for you?
I'll tell you what comes to mind when you said that. When I went into prison, I was running 5 companies of my own, which is the mission. And I remember the first day lying on that concrete floor with 33 centimeters of space. And I said to myself, shit, this is not too bad. They can do whatever they want. The pressure, the release of the pressure that I was carrying was far outweighing than the concrete floor. And I said to myself that night right there, I will never get into that position again.
And that's the word I'd use. So I'd say be aware of areas of development or potential development. Be aware of them. And if you want to work on them, that's fabulous, but not at the expense of what you're brilliant at. So if you're the swimmer, be the swimmer, but be aware that you might want to go for a jog now and again. But you're not going to now go, oh, I'm not this perfect whole person. I better go jogging, so I can do long distance running, and I'm just going to leave the swimming pool alone, because it's redundant. You were born with a gift. Own it. And so many people just want to be samies and want to be perfect at everything. Well, failure is not being that whole person. It's not acknowledging that you've got incredible visionary gifts that other people don't have. Own it. Rather own your strengths than look and go, oh, I need to develop this aspect of myself.
Have you read the book The Fortune at the Bottom of the Pyramid?
So the funny thing is, when I launched my business Minanawe in 1996, We struggled to get anyone interested in the black market. We struggled. I had 3 partners. We came out of the politics. We were all members of the ANC and came out the struggle. And my friend Sandile and Sbu and Jablani decided that there was a space for an agency that focused just on the township and mass black market. No one was interested. And then 2 things happened. And kind of about 3-4 years later, we were really struggling. We were thinking about throwing in the towel. And then the first was that the UCT Unilever Institute wrote a report called The Black Diamonds. And overnight, everyone phoned us and said, hey, we believe you guys can talk to the Black Diamonds. We're like, we've been telling you about this for ages, like, what's wrong? And then the fortune at the bottom of the pyramid followed literally a year later. And overnight, my business was like suddenly a business because suddenly, and this is the tragedy, is that we need someone to write a book like that. Or I wrote Gasinomics, and everyone is like, we never believe there's a township economy. Is that, the reason entrepreneurs are successful, entrepreneurs don't need a business case. They don't need to have read the book. They need to have seen either a lifestyle orientated thing or an opportunity or qualitative basis. And in Africa, these opportunities are huge. In Nigeria and South Africa, Zambia, they're growing economies, Mozambique, etc., etc. But we have to change the dynamic of that. We can't just go and read, once they've written the book, it's too late, it's like, but part of what I wrote about is not to try and do the authoritative, this is what the economy is, but have you considered the opportunities by just changing the way you look at an economy, the way you look at opportunities? And the biggest one is to say Africa is untouched. Africa has 1 billion people. Something like 70% of our population is under the age of 25. We're a middle class. I mean, some of the stuff I quote in here, I read in Factfulness, and I was like underquoting the scale of the African economy. A friend of mine, Faye, in Nigeria, wrote a book called The Villager, and the concept was the concept of Africans are modernizing, they're not westernizing. And this creates opportunity, because the concept of westernizing means that all they want is that they're coconuts, they're brown on the outside but white on the inside. The reality is that culturally, and culture is different from tradition. Traditions that happened in the past. Culture is a living thing. It's around us all the time. If you look at culture and lifestyle, Africans are talk here about the age of the Afropolitan. They talk about millennials and Afrillennials and whatever. I believe today is the age of the Afropolitan, who is culturally very African, but incredibly modern at the same time, but wants stuff that's culturally relevant to them. The opportunities in Africa are for this Afropolitan, this modern person who's not real westernizing. Yeah, they're taking, in fact, anthropologists talk about fast and slow culture. Slow culture is social norms and cultural things we do. Fast culture is the adoption of things like cell phones and these kind of things. But all people have this fast and slow culture clash between them. On the one hand, they have these things that they adapt to slowly, and the other thing, they're fast. So yes, get involved in cell phones and stuff, but you've got to ask yourself, what's the slow culture component? What is the cultural things that are changing slowly, which we should be adapting to and supplying those things, whether those are, Mondays in Soweto and Mamelodi and Tembisa and whatever is Mogodu Monday. Tripe is a huge thing. Everyone goes with their Porsches and their Range Rovers, and they go to Mum's and they have Mogodu Monday. You think, who's adapting to these kind of things? These are important cultural things to people.
How do you become aware of this stuff? Because it's, I would imagine that like any economy, it's moving, it's evolving, and so opportunities come and opportunities go. And if you're sitting as a young white entrepreneur with only white friends, maybe a couple, black kids that you go to school with, you don't really understand, because Thabo, your mate from Soweto or from another township, he's like, there's just an entire other world there. So for a young, how does one basically understand, well, where are the opportunities, and to keep abreast of it? Because there's no data.
Yeah.
It's not in the news. this is the first time I'm hearing about it after 3 years of covering, entrepreneurship business in Africa. And so outside of this book, like, where does one start?
Well, so, I mean, we're in a country where most of the people are black. So for all the black guys, I generally say, stop looking out the window and look in the mirror. Because it's such an important thing, is that the opportunities are actually around us. The building industry, black people have a whole different idea of what's cool in a home. Ceilings are the coolest thing, stop nonsense. Stop nonsense is. It's a fence. It's like a fancy garden wall or a fence. It's called stop nonsense. So when they get directions, they say, "Oh, you drive down the road, you'll see the house with stop nonsense. You turn left there." But there's a whole style of building. What are the opportunities for architects, for building people, anyone involved in decor? I did a huge project for Mr. Price Home. Mr. Price, a Pep Home. And Pep's buyers go to China and they buy all the stuff and they come back, they put it in Pep stores. And then all the people we spoke to, they say, "Why would you go to Pep?" They say, "Those curtains are the shittest curtains you've ever seen." We go and we buy the most expensive curtains at Wayland's or whatever it might be. It's like people like, no. And when we showed the pictures, we took pictures of 2,500 houses around the country and we showed them to these Pep buyers. They were like, "Yara, do black people like that kind of stuff?" They were like, they couldn't believe it. And so it was like simple stuff, just understand what was important. So the first thing I think from a black people's perspective is and youth particularly, is this thing of stop looking out. You're not going to be the Elon Musk, but you could be the Dangote. Dangote is the richest man in Africa, I think the 10th richest man on the planet, by understanding the Nigerian and West African economy. There's economies around here that are huge and opportunities around them. I think going on a broader basis is that is for me the biggest thing about this is curiosity. Is that if you're curious about this, half the time I chat, yes, I speak Zulu and a little bit of Sotho and some Xhosa, but most of my thing is when I go into these environments, I'm curious about it.